Hello everyone. Greetings from Media Publishing. On 4th of April 2025, our first publication, The Grand Oxford Mystery, a destination thriller by Dr. Manjiri Prabhu, was launched at the Oxford Literary Festival in Oxford, UK. Dr. Manjiri Prabhu is an internationally acclaimed, award-winning author and a pioneering voice in contemporary mystery fiction. Often described as the Indian Agatha Christie, she was the first Indian woman in the genre to be published internationally, and her work is distinguished by its intellectual depth, atmospheric settings, and intricate plotting. With a writing career spanning over 5 decades, her novels have garnered global recognition, including The Cosmic Clues, selected as a killer book by the Independent Mystery Booksellers of America, and The Astral Alibi, honored in the Kiriyama Prize. Her recent title, The Rampur Raza Mystery, was launched by the Honorable President of India, Draupadi Murmu. On the 4th of April 2026, we began celebrating the successful completion of 1 year of this book. We have planned 4 literary events as part of the celebration for 4 days. Our fourth and last session is Blurring the Line Between Fiction and Reality. Heidi Armbruster, a playwright and theatre artist, will converse with Dr. Manjiri Prabhu. Heidi Armbruster is a playwright and theatre artist whose work explores mystery, language, and the complicated bonds of chosen family. Her plays include Mrs. Christie, about Agatha Christie's infamous 11-day disappearance, produced at Dorset Theatre Festival, Theatre Works Silicon Valley, Cincinnati Playhouse in the Park, and Milwaukee Repertory Theatre, with upcoming productions at MacArthur Theatre Center and Kansas City Actors Theatre. Murder Girl premiered at Forward Theatre and Milwaukee Chamber Theatre and will be seen next at Peninsula Players. Her solo show, Scarecrow, premiered at Dorset Theatre Festival, was produced by Next Act Theatre and developed in partnership with Page 73 and Cape Cod Theatre Project. As an actor, she has appeared widely in New York and regional theatre, as well as in film and television. She writes plays in the belief that curiosity, theatricality, and a good mystery can still bring people into a room together. I now request Heidi to take over.
Hi, I'm Heidi Armbruster, and it is my incredible pleasure to get to speak to Manjiri Prabhu about her incredible book, The Grand Oxford Mystery. So before we get started with Manjiri and invite her to come on camera as well, I just want to give you my hot take on how delightful I found this book. To be perfectly honest, I read it in an entire night. It flies off the page. And the thing I liked best about it is, as a reader and as somebody who loves books and finds great comfort in books, this novel felt to me like a celebration of so many of my favorite books and authors. It has, and I know we're in dangerous territory when I do literary allusions or compare and contrast, so I'll just do this really quickly and take what you will and leave the rest behind. But it's Alice in Wonderland, it's Harry Potter, it's The Secret History, it's Tolkien, it's Le Carré, and of course, it is Agatha Christie. And not only is it a sort of celebration of my favorite literature, but it is at the heart a book about books, about storytelling, and I think about being a writer. So let's start the conversation. Manjiri, do you want to come on and get into it?
Hey, hi, Heidi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction and wonderful feedback on the book. I'm so delighted.
I'm so happy to see you too. Should we talk about how we met?
Yeah, why not? That was so amazing.
We were at the Agatha Christie Festival in Torquay in 2015, celebrating Agatha Christie's 125th birthday, and Manjiri was there to speak about her Cosmic Clues series. And Astral Alibi. And I think at the time, and we became sort of instant friends in this sea of Agatha Christie fans. We sort of spotted each other and connected and
Yes.
spent a good part of that week together and have kept in touch for these 11 years and have sort of followed your career from afar. But this is the first time that I have met Ray Parker on the page. And I think when we met in 2015, and you'll correct me, you were just about to start the research on the Salzburg book. Is that correct?
That's absolutely right. Yeah, commendable. Your memory is so commendable.
Mm,
Absolutely. You remember everything.
well,
Uh, yes, I was starting off on Salzburg. I think I had just decided that that was 2015, and yes, I had just completed, writing to Salzburg people saying I'd love to be there, and and start the book. And yeah, around that time, I had in fact already started the research a bit. But yes, you're absolutely right. That was the Trail of Four.
and at the time that we were at the Christie Festival, had Ray Parker manifested in your imagination, or was he still to come?
He had already manifested. I knew he was coming, and I knew he was all set to be born. And I was just biding my time for the right moment. But yes, he was very much, I'd already seen how he was going to look, what he was going to wear, how he was going to behave. He was already born in my head. He just had to come on paper.
There's something, well, we can sort of, let's kind of start at the beginning. There's a few things I want to ask about this book. I love a mystery within a mystery. And this book, I feel, operates on two levels. We have Ray and Emma, this really delightful character that we meet in Oxford who feels like part of Oxford herself. She's a tour guide and a young budding writer herself. And then we have Paul, the author, and he's the manuscript that we meet is from Paul's POV. But I'm also struck by this third layer, which is the Manjiri layer, as you are writing the book and traveling through Oxford. And oh my God, I just got a chill. And your conversation that you're having with the reader. So it feels to me like the book is actually operating on three levels. And there's something about those three levels that I kind of want to dig into. And the first place, maybe to start, is this notion of visions, because the book begins with Ray Parker having this vision of dread. And then as we're introduced to the manuscript, we're also introduced to Paul's visions as well that are on the page in his chapters. And I'm curious about your visions, like how Ray came to you, how the idea for the book came to you, where your inspiration for this, and correct my pronunciation, care inspirer.
Yes. Current Spira, yes. Or you can, it's a new word. You can say it any which way you want.
Care inspirer, this notion of charisma and inspiration sort of smashed together. That,
Yes.
I mean, just to go back to 2015, that is how I would describe you. Like, you
Oh
ooze
my God.
charisma, and you have remained a source of inspiration to me. So I was like, oh, this is so right. And I kind of want to know, how the visions come together and how the characters and the storylines manifest first. And then my second question is, where are you located in this text?
Oh my God. That's a lot of questions,
There's
Heidi.
like
But
too many. That's because I'm not an actual interviewer. And mostly I'm just excited to talk to you about the book. So it's all like,
yes, you kind of you just plunged into the heart of the book and the heart of the creative process. But I'm very happy to address it. So Ray was a vision. Before Ray had his vision, I had a vision of Ray. And I saw this man in a leather jacket, in a ponytail with silver rimmed specs, standing by a lakeside, looking across a lake to a mountain. And later on, this turned out to be Salzburg, the Salzburg Lake, and the Schloss Leopoldskron. But I literally saw him, and I knew that he was waiting to be born. So that was Ray. But before this happened, I was contemplating having a male detective because I had already created two female detectives. And I thought it was time to explore the male world now and find out how a male detective would work and how he would think and how he would solve cases. So that was really at the back of my mind. So maybe it all came together and I had this vision of Ray. Like you rightly said, there are three layers in the book, of course: Paul's story, Ray's story, and my story. And it is complicated. I know when you put it that way, I realized that I took on a lot, and
It is
and I
so delightfully ambitious. Like,
yes, it is.
and you land the plane. Like it all comes together in the end, which is like we are in exceptionally good hands. But the
Yes,
scope of the book and the
yes,
puzzle box quality of the book and the
yes.
way the book is in conversation with other literary figures is incredibly ambitious. I'm like, oh, only somebody in a really confident mid to late career space could land this plane. So let's sidebar that. Okay, keep going.
Okay, yes, sir, you're right. Absolutely. I did want to challenge myself because I was in this place, which is Oxford, the real Oxford, because Pune is called the Oxford of the East. And here I was right in the middle of Oxford, and I very much wanted to base a thriller there with Oxford as a central character. And I said it couldn't be a normal thriller, a chase sequence and just solving a mystery. It had to deal with all the characteristics of Oxford. And mainly at the heart of it is, of course, the academics and the writers. So many great writers who have come emerged from Oxford as professors and teachers, and are actually binding the writerly spirit in Oxford. They're holding it together. And I thought this book had to be kind of a tribute to that spirit, which is how Paul was born. And I realized, because Paul is a writer, and a writer who feels that he ought to have found his fame and his success and hasn't found. And it gave me an opportunity to go into the heart and mind of a writer and bring it out, because with Paul, I literally channeled another writer. Apart from me being a writer, I was channeling the mind of a writer and trying to take the reader into a writer's mind and showing what really goes on in not just a writer, but in the mind of any artist who puts his heart and soul out there and is probably not receiving the same kind of acknowledgement. I feel that just to drift away a little bit, I feel that writers and artists are already trying to make sense of the world around them. They go a step further, and they are also trying to make sense of the world inside them. So when the outside world and the inside world are either coming together or clashing and not blending in the kind of creativity they do, there are frustrations that can happen, I feel. And I think that's exactly what Paul is going through, apart from his claim of writing the best mystery novel. I mean, it's a challenge he's thrown to the readers as well as to Ray, and his goal is to suck Ray into his fictitious reality, and then the two realities merge, as you know. But that was really it. When it comes to Ray, of course, Ray is a compassionate, sensitive person who works with energies, and he knows, he understands the workings of the minds of a criminal as well as a normal person. And because he's got this edge over others, which is the vibrational energy that he works with. But he's a very down to earth person, and he he tries to find his way through all the emotional trauma that he's going through. And of course, he has, later on he gets the help of a dog. But uh, Ray in the previous books was very confident until the third book, when he falls madly in love with someone. And I think that kind of, he lost his footing there, and in the book after that he couldn't regain that footing. And in this book now, there was the challenge of his own instability, and this plot and this challenge thrown to him through Paul. And so it all had to come together. Okay, so that was one thing. Now, coming to me, how was I? So it was a question I asked myself even when I
Yeah.
went to Oxford for research. What am I going to do here? You know, Obviously it wasn't going to be a closed room mystery, a sitcom, no such thing. It wasn't also going to be a chase sequence across Oxford. So there had to be a reason for me to involve the scholarly symbols of Oxford, the cultural elements of Oxford, and the plot had to be laid out according to and structured according to these requirements. And so therein came Manjiri with her her inner turmoil in the outer world, and she tried to bring everything together.
It strikes me, okay, I have never been to Oxford. I, of course, am familiar with Oxford insofar as like BritBox television, it having sort of the highest murder rate in the literary
Wow.
world per capita of any other,
Yes.
there's sort
Wow.
of
That's I didn't know that either.
just insofar that like so many of the fictional stories that I have sort
Are
of
based.
devoured,
Yeah.
take place. And so it feels like in that context, it's also sort of dripping with this literary legacy of murder and chase. But
Yeah.
it strikes me like I would like to go to Oxford and I would like to take your book and use it as a travel guide. Like let Emma and Ray and Paul sort of be the ones to show me around Oxford and go to all of these places, find the face in the leaves, the witch in the
Yeah.
bottle, take a boat
Yeah.
ride on the canal, take
Yeah.
the trip to Blenheim, like the Botanic Garden. And I guess that's my question, like which came first, you in Oxford or Oxford in you in terms of making this book, and how did the process of research and inspiration collide?
Well, so definitely me in Oxford, because I've always said this, that the plot of any of my destination thrillers is not born outside the destination. It is always something that grows while I'm doing the research. So I was in Oxford to launch my other book. It was The Legend of the Snow Queen. And I was also there to talk about Mystery of the Portuguese Hearts. And I'd finished 4 thrillers in the series. And I was wondering which is going to be my next destination. And I was standing outside the Radcliffe camera, and my sister was recording me saying this. Is it going to be Oxford? Because I realized when I went there, when I saw all these iconic buildings and colleges and in the garden, like you said, all of it. And I said, wow, what a place to base a thriller in. But I wasn't sure whether I was going to do it ultimately, because, coming back again, researching and, so it's very expensive, all of it, of course. So, doing a destination thriller. So I was just standing in front of the Radcliffe camera and saying, I wonder which will be my next destination thriller, and could it be Oxford? And suddenly the wind picked up, Heidi, in such a way that it swirled around me, my hair blew and everything. And I said, is this a message from the universe? And as luck would have it, I did come back in June for research, and 1 year later I did launch the book at the Oxford Literary Festival. So I feel that I did go to Oxford, but Oxford took me in. Oxford accepted me, and the spirit of Oxford probably saw something in me, and I said, "Well, here's, an author who would benefit from maybe writing a book on me." But definitely, maybe Oxford felt I would add a different kind of tinge to the whole mystery thing. Who knows?
I want to talk about uh, okay, on page 172,
Okay.
the tug of the heart between the country of your birth and the allure and experience of a country that speaks to you. I
Yeah.
had to choose which suited me best in the long run. We chose separate countries.
Yeah.
And this is a quote from Ray's mother, Maria,
Yeah.
uh, about, I won't give anything away, but she's speaking there of the travel and the tension between India and Oxford. And it
Yeah.
strikes me like, yes, many authors have written about Oxford. Many authors have put murder inside Oxford, but nobody has done it quite like you. And there's a tension, I think, that I felt as a reader in a really exciting way between Oxford and India, and
Mm.
uh, specifically around this manuscript that also sits at the heart of the book. And I wonder if you can talk about that, the country of origin, and these countries that you have gone to develop your work, that are European countries and how that tension lives inside you and on the page?
Well, first of all, definitely through Ray, because Ray is half Indian. He's got a French mother and he's got an Indian father he doesn't get along with. But he does wear a multi metal Ganesha around his neck, and he does work with energies, and he's got this Indian spiritual element in him. So I think that's the first, defining factor about India being somewhere in the books, although they are European based with European characters. India follows somewhere, in the background. So that's one of the first. And also, especially in this book, I do have an India connect. Like you said, she's in this Ashmolean museum, and there is this beautiful black Nandi sitting right in the middle of the floor. And she is talking about that Nandi. So that Nandi is a reference to the India that I'm talking about, and our religious inclinations, our spiritual inclinations, the faith we follow, and more importantly, the spirit, the family, the spirit of family. We are very family oriented. We like to stay together, parents and children, and we kind of hold on to each other for many years. We barely let go of each other. So I think when she talks about the country of her love and the country that is tugging her, she probably means about leaving her family behind, because she has to now break up the family. She will take Ray and his sister and move to France. So she's breaking away from tradition. We like to stay together. She's breaking away from tradition, and obviously for that she has to give up, sacrifice on love. So that is one thing. And so I think India does creep in through my thoughts as an author's thoughts, as as, and like you like rightly said, there is also a manuscript at the heart of the book, which is so Indian and which just talks about Indian. I won't give away what it talks about, but yeah, Indian concepts. Let me say it, that Indian concepts and how India has pioneered in so many ways. And when you talk of knowledge and when you talk of Oxford, this particular book does play a very important role in accepting India's role in the world of knowledge. So that's how, without being obvious about it and without being in the face about India's role in my life or in the life of uh, Europeans or in the world, these are subtle connections that I think I need to put them forward, yeah, subtly, because after all, I'm an Indian and I know what the contributions of Indians across the world. Does that answer your question, or did I go off tangent?
No, I loved that answer to that
Okay,
question.
all right.
Okay, I also am picking up on something you just said about faith, religion.
Yeah.
I was really struck in Paul's chapters that sort of are the inner layer of the onion.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
sort of started picking up on it in a craft way, the way you use repetition.
Yeah.
And then as I went through the book, it started to sort of filter down and hit me in the heart. As a writer, there's a kind of almost like a religious text about being a writer or faith in the craft of writing. It really took you only a year to write this book
It took
chapter.
me 2 months to write this book.
How?
Yes,
How?
because how? Yeah, yeah. That's what. So this is what I mean. Probably Oxford chose me to write this book, and because the book was, it was happening at the back of my mind, and I had already done my research. But to put it all together and onto paper was taking time. And then I had my lit fest in between, which was in December. So a lit fest takes up 2-3 months of my time, which means after I did my research, I went straight to my lit fest, and this book was festering at the back of my mind, and I hadn't brought it out. And so I sat down, and the book was there in my head, and I just poured it out. December, January, February, they went all out for editing and everything, and by 28th February, I think it had reached Oxford. So it's a miracle book, and it's only possible because I felt like, I keep feeling I'm chosen sometimes, even at the risk of sounding very immodest and pompous about it, but I feel sometimes that I am chosen to do certain things. And writers have roles, like, and artists have roles, and I feel that my role in this is to bring the world a bit closer, culturally, and also, you might have realized that the message in the book is of peace. Writers who've written books on peace are going to be felicitated. So, and not just this book, the entire series is about peace and coexistence and harmony in the world. And so in all my other books there's something related to peace, is there's a treaty being signed, there's a symbol of peace being released in the Portuguese heart. So all these things are playing at the as a foundation to my series. So I feel that at somewhere along the way, I think probably I have been chosen in my own small little way to spread this message. And that is why I feel that I'm the chosen one. And that is why I feel that things, even the novels, are coming out of me, because this message has to go out, that there may be boundaries in the world, and we may be divided by color and caste and language and everything, but when you look at the world as a whole, our emotions are the same, our desires are the same, the love we feel is the same, our love for existence, and everything is the same, and we have to respect that. So I think that is my role, and probably that is why these books are coming to me. I think that's going a bit uh, over the top, but I do seriously feel that.
No, I feel it in reading it. And it is such a book of connection, too. It draws so many threads together and so many writers that I love and so many genre that I love. It really does feel like a
Yeah,
celebration of that kind of cultural connection.
yeah.
And see, now you gave me that beautiful answer. So I feel really stupid just asking like the writer questions about like, what is the 2-month process like of sitting down at, I'm assuming, your computer and just
Yeah,
even to bang out this many words?
yeah,
Like it
yeah.
makes my body kind of hurt on your behalf. Like I kind of just want to know how you're able to do that, because maybe I need to buy a better chair.
Well, I know, if your body aches, mine aches too. If the thought makes your body aches, imagine what it does to me. It is a process, and well, I've done so much work before I actually sit and write. I have done a lot of research, and I know what's going to happen, and I've got a draft in my head and on paper. I know that this is the way the novel is going to unfold. These are the suspects, and these are the elements which will keep these are the features which are going to keep the surprise element of surprise all alive right till the end, and this is the punch point, and this is the hook. So I know all of that. So when I sit down to write, it's like it's like a channel now flowing through my hand and onto the laptop, and I'm just writing, and there is no pressure. I mean, there is the pressure of completing the book, but I enjoy the process so much that I don't really realize that my body is aching. And I every minute of that 1 month or 2 months or whatever, the entire process of the book is like a God-given gift to me, because I feel lucky. I feel grateful, and I feel that it's up to me now to make sure that to complete the task that I've been given. And so I enjoy it. It's not a pressure, it is just sheer enjoyment at belting out book after book, not just this book, but any book that I'm writing, and I make sure that I enjoy the process. Otherwise it'll be just a dry kind of an experience, which I don't want to do. And I want to feel every book I write, and I want to enjoy the journey of the book. So I make that I ensure that I enjoy the process.
Okay, I have finally found, oops, where'd it go? Oh, here it is. And this is a good segue into this, because I met your lovely husband who put us together on the technical aspect, and I had to run out to the garage and get Greg to help me with my microphone. So and I'm like,
Good.
I think that Greg, my partner, could have written this chapter about me. So I'm just going to read this little section. An artist is a possessed person, too influenced by the reality around him, but deliberately untouched by the consequences of the daily grind around him. He cannot afford to be common. His acute sensitivity to life and highly imaginative responses to boredom are what make him exceptional. Commonplace reactions to a situation can drag him down. He lives in a creative hemisphere, elevated above the ordinary, engrossed in a world unknown and illusory to others. There is a jungle inside my head, which juxtaposes with the cliffs by the sea. the busy marketplace where people shout to peddle their wares, somewhere in the east to the undulating sand dunes of the endless deserts. The mind jumps from one stimulating image to a probing thought and to another rousing emotion. Sensory experiences to distant observations, looping and wading through the morass of trick imagery till I can break through, gasping for breath, for a minimum comprehension of what I need to hold on to in the island of floating images. Okay, that writing is gorgeous and really fun to say aloud.
This was beautifully said, beautifully read. Thank you so much, Heidi. What a
Oh,
gift.
that was awesome. But I'm like, oh my God, that's me when I'm working on something, when I sort of lose time and forget to feed myself, much less others who might depend on me. When I forget to do things like pay rent and my credit card bills because I'm more concerned with the characters than I am with the people around me. And there's a great tension in this book between the author and the shadow self of the author, the shadow author. What can happen if some of those impulses are taken too far? And in that regard, it reminded me a tiny little bit of Roger Ackroyd. And of course, so much
Yeah.
of your writing, I feel Agatha Christie bubbling up through. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit about where you and Paul intersect.
At many places, at many points. And I'm so glad that it resonated with you, this entire description of Paul's inner world, because it is also my inner world. And I think he represents a lot of creative people, because this is what's happening inside us and no one really understands that. And I felt it was time to bring it out, because I don't feel writers and creative people are ordinary people. There is something going on inside which even they don't understand, and they have to grapple with this every single time they're in the throes of creation. And it's a journey, and it's only the creation which keeps them sane. And I thought that this was a good opportunity for me to bring that out in front of the world. So yes, Paul has a lot of me in him, and he has a lot of so many writers in him and creative people in him. Absolutely.
I have to say, one of my favorite sections of the book, without giving too much away, is a little love story that happens sort of briefly on the page and then has reverberations into the past and potentially the future. But it happens between two people who are not spring chickens.
Yeah.
They are not young. And there was something really glorious about there was a big question that's brought up in the book. And then as I'm sort of, as the reader, recalibrating, oh, this isn't a why done it, it's a who done it, it's a what done it, it's a, the book sort of takes a turn. I'm dropped into this really lovely space where I'm encountering these two people sort of finding each other after a lot of time. And I just really like it when literature, stories, TV, film, whatever, takes a moment and drops us into the idea that people over 50 can still have romantic feelings and it's not gross. And I wondered if you might want to talk about that a little bit.
Well, people at any age can love, and love is, an emotion or a feeling or whatever, like an angel. I call it an angel. If love is an angel, you can meet that angel anytime, anywhere, at any age. I feel so. I'm a huge, strong believer of love in all forms, but definitely romantic love, because I think romance binds us, and it's the one emotion that is a strong binding factor amongst all the countries and all the people in the world. And coming to this particular couple that you're talking about, well, that is one of the foundational problems in Paul's novel, and it is also from where this whole story stems. So that romance had to come a full circle in the book, and that is why it happens. But other than that, I feel, well, I I feel that if you strongly and firmly believe that there is a soulmate out there for you, and you've probably met him, in your youth, and now you're above 50, there is every possibility that you might be reunited with that soulmate. And I do believe that. I think that the one who's destined for you is definitely out there, and you will meet him or her no matter what. And yeah, this is a way of giving hope to all the people who believe in love, and especially 50 and above, because life isn't over. I feel life begins at 50. And because you've learned, you've done all the mistakes, you've met all the wrong people, and now is the time to straighten up, and use your learnings for a better second half of your life, or whatever the second innings. And I feel that this book should give some hope, because the intention is love, peace, coexistence, harmony, like I said, and that is one of the important threads in the book.
So there's another love story that drives the action of the book in a lot of ways without giving too much away, but I'm just going to read this little section.
Yeah.
Ray's eyes drooped. He had promised Archie that he would take care of him, but by some strange twist of order and fate, he realized that it was the little dog who was actually taking care of him, simply by being in the same room and exuding immense trust and faith in him. It was with this comforting thought that Ray drifted into slumber, aware that he had a lot to think about, but right now he was just content to share space with the dog. And it struck me too, as you were talking about Ray's journey over the 4 novels, that one of the big healing, not only in terms of solving the mystery and spending the time with his mother, but that meeting this dog, Archie,
Yeah.
is a healing moment for Ray. And I wonder if you can talk also about the inclusion of Archie in this book, and another one of your famous coined words, dogtrin.
Yeah.
Dogtrine. How do you say it?
I call it the doctrine of peace.
The
The
doctrine
doctrine.
of
Yeah.
peace.
Yeah. So, well, it's obvious that I'm a huge dog lover. And I'm not just a dog lover. I think I'm a dog, how should I call it, worshipper. I'm a dog worshipper, and I feel that dogs are in our world and in our life for a reason. And there's a reason why dog is also god.
Mm.
And I firmly believe that dogs have the power to change mankind and to take us from a world of chaos to a world of peace. And keeping that, so because of that, that's why I've written the book called, it's a non-fiction book called The Doctrine of Peace, and it's an alternate path to spiritual enlightenment, provided everyone follows my doctrine of peace. Okay, that is the, the big and the underlying, the operative word is that people have to follow it. But in that book, I have very specifically given a kind of a 9-stage fundamentals of how the world can change with the help of dogs. And there are interviews, like there's Jane Goodall's interview, and it's got many interviews in it, and stories of dog lovers and dogs in different roles in our lives and how they can change our life. So when it comes to Ray, like I said in book number 3, had a heartbreak, and it was a very, very bad heartbreak, and he's finding it very hard to find his way back into normal life. And so everything he does, he goes back to that thought and everything. And I realized that in the next book, immediately following the heartbreak, he did not come back on track. So I thought it was really high time that now Ray got back, and probably in the future he would also meet his soulmate or whatever. But I had to clear the path, and no woman or a man was going to do that for him. It had to be somebody extraordinary, and it had to be a dog. But of course, a dog just couldn't walk into his life. There had to be a reason why a dog is there. Like every word in a mystery novel has to have a reason to be there, or a character has to be a reason to be there. So, but I've been saying this, but this happened very strangely. Uh, I didn't immediately think of a dog for him. I was contemplating till I went to Oxford for research. And when I went into the room, on the wall of that hotel room was a picture of a dog in a Sherlock Holmes cap. And that was absolutely shocking, because you don't find such portraits or photographs in hotel rooms. There are other things like a vase or a landscape or whatever. So I was very struck by this very odd picture on the wall, and it was lovely. All the 8-10 days that I stayed there, the dog was right overhead and taking care of me. So that was good. And then there was an exhibition on Kafka going on there, and the first book I picked up from there was Investigations of a Dog. And I said, okay, this is it. There were too many messages coming in very strongly, and I couldn't ignore them. And I said, okay, it's time for a dog to come into his life. But the dog is also grieving because he's gone through his own trauma and his own whatever. And so it was a very good combination to bring a dog, a grieving dog, into Ray's life because he's also grieving, and together they're going to help each other find the way out of all the emotional turbulence that they're going through. And yes, let's see what happens in the next book. I mean, the journey started right now.
This is my last question. What is your life and how can I live it? I feel like you could be like, I just have this image of you flying to these incredible locations, writing these books, meeting all of these people. There's sort of like I feel like you could be a lifestyle influencer. Like the Manjiri doctrine would be get a dog, read books, write books, travel a lot, love hard, make connections, bring peace.
Yeah, when you put it that way, it does sound very ideal.
Mm-hmm.
And how can you live my life? Well, you have to be me to do that, but you already have a beautiful life yourself, so I won't impose my life on you. But I knew long ago when I was growing up that this is what I wanted to do: write books, travel, be with dogs, be with my family, find love, spread love. I knew it, and I have actively and deliberately and persistently followed this path of life. And for some years, I was a television producer in a setup which I didn't like, although the work was fabulous. And I spent a rather longer time than I thought I would there, which was 17 years. And so when I did give up that job to take up full time writing, I said this was it. Nothing was now going to stop me from the dream I want to live. And touch wood, but yes, God has been kind, and my family has been there, and my husband's there, and they've all supported this path of life. And having said that, I think at some point in your life, you have to train yourself to be a bit selfish, because when you start thinking of others all the time, and if you start putting others before you, then you cannot live a life that you want, a life that I want, like traveling and then researching and coming back and spending 6 months writing a book. It's a life of luxury. It's a life which people would want but probably would not be able to give because of responsibilities and other issues in their lives and so many things. So I feel in that sense I have been blessed, but I have also been a bit selfish, and I'm going to admit that to you, because without being selfish it's not possible. I have always put myself first, and I have because I know that I take myself extremely seriously as a writer. I think I was meant to be one, I was born to be one, and I have to honor what I have been brought in this world to be. So for that, I have to sometimes, I don't know if I've hurt people, I hope not, but I have been selfish, and I know that there's no other way to do this. So,
Well,
yes, yeah,
your selfishness
yeah,
has created an incredible gift. There's an incredible generosity that has come out of your selfishness in the books, the accessibility and the delight and the traveling to these places. I, as a reader, get to experience things that I would not otherwise get to experience. And that feels like the generous upside of what you call selfishness. Anyway, I'm just going to say, as a charismatic inspirer, as a care inspirer, you're top of my list. It's a grand life. It's great to
thank you.
speak with you. And The Grand Oxford Mystery is an incredible book that I highly recommend. And it's just been such a pleasure to talk to you across all of these
Absolutely.
time zones and across the time space
Absolutely.
continuum. Thank you.
Superb, Heidi. Thank you so much. You've been wonderful, and you're always wonderful. So, and I knew that you would just get the book. There are people who get a book, and I knew that I had this confidence that you would get it. And thank you so much for doing this, and for just being there right now in support of the book. Thank
It's
you so much.
a supreme pleasure and honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you.